I applied to study medicine and studies in University of Port Harcourt actually. Why? My second choice was Ignition Graduate University to study education and biology. My mom did not want me to study education, but my dad wanted me to study teaching children was fun to watch. When you teach them, the ability for them to grab and remember what you taught. I was like, okay, pretty sure I can actually do this, right? Because while growing up, I was always thinking education is just for people who do not get good jobs. I envision teachers as being more technological driven.
Welcome to this episode of Peel. On this podcast, we're peeling back on the inspiring stories within education and unveiling the future that is possible. We are telling the stories of those who make great things happen. Fortune Chienweatu is an educator and academic administrator who is passionate about reimagining K-12 education in Nigeria and beyond. She is focused on how AI and digital tools can be integrated into the teaching and learning process to make education more engaging, inclusive, and effective. With her experience in teaching, examination coordination, and school operations, Fortune brings data-driven, innovative approach to education. Let's start by meeting you. So just tell us your full name and we will delve into the fun things that you have for us today.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Giami Fortune Chienweatu.
Welcome, drum roll. Welcome to the podcast where we're talking education and uplifting the very vitals of what it means to learn and everyone who is part of the process of ensuring that quality education is what everyone gets. And we're delighted to delve into this behind the scene with you because that's what this podcast is about. Now, before we go too far in, let's start by you just saying something really uplifting to people listening to this. Now, when folks start listening to this, they may be anywhere in the world doing just anything at the time. What's one thing that you'd like to say to an educator listening to you today?
Hmm. When you ask me that, one thing that stood out to me the most is do not give up. Do not give up. Because
Mhm.
it's someone that give up along the line. That they say in Nigeria they say na person will really give up, na that person leave. So you don't give up, you keep on striving for the best because you never can tell when that open door, when that opportunity you're looking out or looking out for will just come out. So my message to educators all over the world is do not give up. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing so well. So keep doing that. You also learn to get better in whatever you're doing. Thank you.
Great, great. So, to everyone out there listening, don't give up, keep pushing. And it's those who stay long enough that return with victory. After all, they say that quitters never win and winners never quit, isn't it? All
Yeah.
right, now let's get into knowing you more. Let's start by asking this question. I mean, we already know that this podcast is about education. And for me, when I start this conversation, I want to know how did you get into education as a profession?
Wow. Thank you so much for this question. So I'll be taking you down a true memory lane. when I finished my secondary school, I applied to study medicine and surgery in University of Port Harcourt actually. Why? My second choice was Ignition University to study education and biology. So along the line, I was not offered admission to study medicine. So my dad was like, "Why don't you go for your second choice?" I said, second choice from medicine to education. The gap is something else." But I was like, "Okay, there's more to this." And I also thought about it that I'll give it a try. But before I gave it a try, my dad was a pastor, so I had the opportunity of being a children teacher in one of the locations we transferred to. So I joined the children department, and I saw how teaching children was fun to watch. When you teach them, the ability for them to grasp and remember what you taught. I was like, okay, I'm sure I can actually do this, right? Because while growing up, I was always thinking education is just for people who do not get good jobs and you're looking forward to work and say, okay, come and work in my school. That was what I always thought. I never knew you could learn teaching as a profession. So when my dad actually gave me that head, I said, go there, go and study. And I went there and I started studying education and biology in my first year. I was also reluctant. I won't tell you I was 100% comfortable with it because if I say so, I'm lying. I was also reluctant, but one thing that stood out to me the most, I kept on trusting God. I was like, if it's your will that I should stick in this profession, please show me a sign. Because that's what will keep me going even when the going gets so far. So I prayed to God because I'm a believer actually. I don't know if you know. So I prayed to God and He gave me a sign. I got a scholarship to study education and biology. It sounded weird. Why the share will sponsor you to go and study education? But I was given the opportunity. I was like, okay, this is a sign. Because around that period, we're having slight issues with payment of my school fees, and the scholarship just came, paid my fees, bought my textbook till I was done with school. I was like, this is a sign that I should be in this profession. And since then, I never regret going into education. Thank you.
Hmm. There's a lot packed in that story there. Is it from applying to medicine and surgery and not getting the admission that you wanted? I mean, getting into medicine and surgery is the best thing that any teenager wants, right? I mean,
Yeah.
for the most part, one of those professions that is highly celebrated. It's a big deal when we have a doctor in the family. And that's a talking point because it brings a sharp contrast to what you then talked about as being a teacher, where it's like being a teacher is for someone who has not found anything else to do. I mean, it's like, okay, worst case scenario, at least I'm not jobless, I'm teaching. That's sad, I think, in my opinion. What do you think of comparing those two paradigms? One profession being the thing that everybody wants to get, and when you don't get it, it's like the world is ended. And this other profession is the thing that everyone abhors. What do you think about that to start with?
Okay, I actually think about it in several ways, but I'll mention some of few. Sometimes it's viewpoint. It's viewpoint. Some people see things differently. Some people actually see things differently. Like you said, medicine is more celebrated. I also say it. My mom, she might also hear this. My mom did not want me to study education, but my dad wanted me to study education because of these um, differences in opinion. So in teaching profession, even in our society or in our country, is seen as being less. But the truth is, it's supposed to even be the top profession to be celebrated. Because I was talking to a friend recently, and I was like, teaching profession is supposed to be celebrated because we are like the mother to other professions. If teachers do not teach you to get to high school, how will you be able to navigate to say, okay, I want to study medicine and surgery? A teacher put you through taught you. So why is the teaching profession or the educational sector not celebrated more than other professions? But I believe change begins with us. I believe it will get there.
Okay. But I still want to take you up on that because I want to probe the possibility that it's just an ideological position that you're taking that is based on your own bias for education. I'm not saying that I'm right, I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate, if you like. to say, well, maybe you're just saying that because everybody goes to school before they become whatever it is they become. Yeah, on that basis, education is important. But someone then says, well, that's not enough to prove the point that being a teacher is so important. Maybe what teachers do is not so complicated. Maybe it's not so knowledge demanding. Maybe you don't need so much skill to be a teacher. Perhaps that's why it's not worth so much. What would you say to someone who's thinking like that?
For me, like I said earlier, you sometimes you don't push your opinion on someone. Actually, you don't push your opinion on them. So if they feel that way, it's fine if they feel that way to me. But to me, I feel that education should be celebrated most. And I don't know why it's almost everywhere in the world where teachers are not well celebrated like other professions. I don't have any statistics to prove that actually, but I just feel that teachers should be celebrated more. I don't know if I answered your question. I just feel everybody have their own opinion, and I can't convince you enough to think towards my direction and all that. So that's just my own perspective.
Yeah, actually, about your point about the global statistics in terms of the celebration of a profession, if we're judging by rewards or welfare, it's generally the case in even in Western economies that the profession tends to get lesser rewards compared to other professions. So yes, that point is valid about the state of the sector and the profession across the globe, which is something I think as well that is worth paying attention to. Maybe not necessarily something to be fighting about. Maybe it's about rethinking what the value of the profession is and being able to project it in the right way so that it gets its rewards as it deserves. Perhaps something worth talking about. But then let's move on beyond you applying for medicine and surgery and didn't get in. Now that's a common story. And again, that's not just a story that is unique to Africa or to Nigeria. Even in developed countries, there are Haley schools, there are Ivory institutions, and it's not, even if you were a citizen of that country, that doesn't guarantee that you get into such schools if you didn't get certain grades. So the idea of getting into certain things, certain groups, certain courses, certain universities on the basis of selection because there's a limit here is general. However, there must definitely have been a way you would have felt. You must have nursed this interest for medicine and surgery for a while, and that news of not being selected for the course would have brought you some disappointment. Would you mind us? Would you mind walking us through a bit of that emotional experience of not being accepted for the course?
And definitely, everyone will feel sad. Definitely, you wanted something and you did not get it at first. You feel sad. So, but that's why I had to mention about my dad and also mention about my experience as a teacher in church, which also helped me to, okay, when my dad brought up the suggestion, I said, what if you also think about your second choice school instead of feeling sad? I'm like, okay, let's see how it goes. And since I already had the passion and drive for teaching, I saw it as, let's say, in my way of service to God in church. That was how I saw it. But I never saw it as it could be harnessed to become a profession in general. So I felt that definitely, but you don't have to keep on crying over spilled milk. You have to think of how to make the milk better. And that is how I moved
You're
on.
quite a strong woman. You don't have to keep crying over spilled milk.
So,
But yeah, right. Well, yeah, the emotion hits, and then you have to go past that. I mean, these experiences are not unique, they are quite general. For me as a person, I know that my first course coming out of secondary school wanting to study was mechanical engineering, until my brother suggested, how about you tried computer science? And I went for that and studied that. So that change, sometimes we don't know, we understand better in retrospect. The thing for you, however, by the time you were going into study education was that you had also begun to identify a strong interest in that area. And that's because you had the opportunity of teaching children within the church setting. Would you mind walking us through that experience of teaching children? What stood out to you? What did you like about that entire experience that validated your pursuit of education?
Okay. What stood out to me the most is the ability to teach, or you teach them new morals, or teach them new songs, and when you come back the next Sunday, they are able to say it or they are able to sing it correctly. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. At first, that was how it started. That was how it started. So I kept on watching them. I'll see them songs, spiritual songs, action songs actually, and the ability to sing it properly. I was like, these children, these guys are professors. That was what I always tell them. And so the ability for them to return or give back to the new ideas. And I started seeing parents, the parents complain and say, ah, my child is being too stubborn, my child does not like doing chores. And I call the child and say, you know the way you're doing, God doesn't like it, right? It feels spiritual backup. And you watch the child, the parents giving you positive feedback, even if it's not immediately, maybe 1 month. You're like, okay, this sounds interesting already.
So that feedback of change in the children that you were
That's the word, change.
teaching and mentoring was quite a source of fulfillment for you. And I think that that's the case for a lot of teachers and people who are passionate about education. It's this strong interest for impacting knowledge, but not stopping there, seeing the change it produces in the people that they teach. And you went on to studying education, of course, with biology, and things moved on from there. Would you walk us through studying in the uni, um, and the things that you learned being a student in education, and how were you at that time thinking about being able to apply all of that knowledge when you finished school?
Okay. So while I was in university studying education and biology, actually, after my first year, definitely, the whole excitement getting into higher institution and all that, or the euphoria and all that. So my year two, we had or went for teaching practice, which some people call internship. So when I went for my internship, I did in government secondary school in Eka, Obiapo University. So I was exposed to children, like it was not just the theoretical aspect where I have to go to the field. So it was a field training. You meet children, you practicalize what you've learned in year one and year two, the teaching method you've learned, teaching principles and all that. So when I went for my teaching practice, that was when I was exposed to the second world of education outside the church. So I taught some children, like you also mentioned, change was something that was unique in the two teachings. Always watching the children learn new things, some of them that do not like coming to school, encouraging them and seeing that enthusiasm. Ah, I want to learn more. Ah, we have biology, ma. So people calling me for classes as my year two. So that was the excitement. Then when I got to my final year, we also went for second phase teaching practice, where we were also exposed to children, also learned and also taught them something new. They joined clubs and all that. So my whole school life, I was not just exposed to the theoretical aspect of teaching. I also went for field training, which also helped me.
Great. And how did all of that begin to shape your imagination of your future in education? Like, what did you begin to dream about doing eventually when you get out of school? And how is that materializing now?
Okay. At first, when I kept on teaching them, I just knew there was more to this. I knew there was more to this. There was more to learning. There was more to, okay, so how can I get better? How can I taught children in a traditional school setting actually, like classroom, board, book, chalk, and all that. So I was
Chalkboard.
always chalkboard, yes. So I was always saying there's more to this. There's more to this. So I think when I left school and I finished my service, I was like, let me think of how to divert education, or add a little spice to education. Let me not just leave it to the traditional method I know or have seen. Because when I was in school, I forgot to mention, there's a course I did, which was called educational technology, actually. So in that educational technology, we taught how to apply tools, technological tools in teaching and learning process. As at that time, it was more of digital board and all that, how to use digital board and all that. So, but when I finished school, that was where I started getting a bit about some digital tools like Google Classroom, Canva, and all that. So I was like, okay, let me learn because some teachers have not started going towards that direction. Let me learn, and that was what also helped to shape me in on how to make the educational sector better. Because first of all, I mentioned that when I was doing my teaching practice, I was already exposed to children, exposed to teaching process, but I needed more. I knew there was more to it. And before I mentioned, I know you did not ask, but I also mentioned it that the first place I worked after schooling, after my service year, also helped to shape where I am right now. It also helped to shape where I am because I taught in a Montessori school, and that school also taught us how to use digital tools in order to make the educational sector better. So I think all that helped to shape where I envision education. Thank you.
So you really wanted to see that there was a spice that could stand you out, and you wanted to be innovative about education, not just
Very true.
teach. And
Very
of
well.
course, teaching would not go out of fashion, but you wanted to add value to that. And of course, value is responded to with value, right? And your takeoff on that, your way of doing that was to look at the advantages that technology brings into that field. And one
Yes.
of those applications is the digital classroom that you've talked about. So, including digital boards and gadgets that could make learning better. Now, let's talk about that for a bit. Digital tools, technology in education. What do you think around how widely that is being accepted within your immediate environment today? So, talking about Nigeria, and to the extent that you've interacted with people, first, let's start by asking, do you really think that there's a significant measure of advantage that can be gotten within education if there's a better embrace of technology? That's the first thing. And if there is, then what do you see as to how the adoption of technology is today?
So I'll start with the advantages of technology in education. I'll just mention it in a way that everyone can actually understand. For a child, let's assume for those in, I'll start with preschool, those in kindergarten and all that, the use of interactive videos, slides, pictures, because children are more to pictures, seeing those beautiful colorings, instead of just showing them textbooks or showing them worksheets. When you show them interactive videos that have all these beautiful colors, beautiful animation, you tend to remember what they are learning faster. You tend to learn or videos also. When you show them videos, you play videos for them. I think there was one I tried practicalizing recently of using there's a particular AI tool that you give it a word and it will turn into a podcast for children, and you just hear them. I mean, they're getting on this voice, they're getting this voice. This way, it makes the learning more interactive for them. I don't know how
And
break it down
engaging.
to it, yes, and engaging to them. Then about the adoption, the truth is not all teachers. I don't want to use a particular yardstick or particular measurement to prove that, but in my environment, most teachers have not adopted fully the use of digital tools in learning. That's why, in my own small world, I decided to push it out. I decided to learn and also share my knowledge to other teachers through LinkedIn, where they can also see these digital tools. And I've been getting some amazing comment like, wow, you mean this exists? So I know that in our world, especially in Nigeria currently, or in some rural areas, they've not adopted the use of digital tools in some locations. Some private top private schools they have. Some government schools are also top they have, but in some locations they've not. So I believe that if our teachers are being educated, being taught, some people they actually want to learn more, but they are not. They don't know where to start. They don't know where to start. So I believe if there's someone to actually push out this knowledge and say, okay, start from here. Okay, why don't you try Canva? Say, okay, Canva. What can I do with Canva? And show them how to make colorful worksheets on Canva. And they see it, they say, wow, this is beautiful. So I believe that you just have to start from somewhere, but it has not been widely adopted in the whole country.
Okay, so there are a lot less people that have adopted it than should adopt it. Great. In fact, with some research I was doing with my team, it was seeing how that very limited number of people, I mean, within the education sector, I could boldly say less than 10% are adopting technology at this time, which means there's a huge opportunity out there for us to take advantage of. And of course, like you said, those who take advantage of those opportunities, particularly leveraging technology, then tend to stay ahead of the curve and lead the pack. You had a practical experience that you recall as remarkable, teaching in a particular school that had inculcated the use of technology. Can you walk us through what that experience was? For that particular school, what was the drive? Was it that the school founder was just particularly interested in technology, or was it that there was a teacher that came into school and brought that, and there was an advent of adoption? um, did you meet it there, or did the technology meet you while you were there in the school? And then, in what ways did the school adopt technology?
I met it actually when I came into the school. The school is an international school, Montessori International School in Port Harcourt actually. So I met it there. That's like I always mention my success story, and you must hear me mentioning about that school because they actually instill that drive for integrating digital tools to learning. Because you see them in classes, their lesson plans digitized, their videos digitized, their even scheduling, even scheduling of timetables. We don't do paperwork. We don't send news to parents. So, in some schools still they use news and paper to send information to parents, but they do more on their website. They just post it on their website. Parents will get the mail and know that okay, this is the event the school have. Even down to school reports, results of their children. We don't give paper. We go to the website and see it. So even I was in exam unit at some point, and I saw that at some point too, even in taking midterm exams, they can be in their houses and take their exams, some of the tests. So the school, I met the technology in the school.
And in what ways did you interface with this technology? Of course, there's the administrative part, like scheduling classes
Yes,
and all that.
okay.
In addition to that, you also use it, I guess, in engaging with the students or preparing classes, lectures, or conducting tests. In what ways did you particularly use
Okay.
technology in that school?
I was actually working in the administrative aspect. So I do more of observation of teachers. I use some of those tools to, like Google Form. I use Google Form to observe teachers. There are some let me say some specific things that a teacher needs to meet or criteria a teacher needs to meet in a lesson. So me, I was the academic officer. So when I come to lessons like that, I open my Google form and I use it as a criteria, and I keep the ones the teacher got right, and also make recommendations where there are some pitfalls or curveballs in it. So that was one way I used it. In another way, when they were when they do tests from home, I also try following the whole process with my phone to be sure that there's no glitch, that no child is having any issue. In some cases, when they even have issues, I report back to the IT department. So that was part of our duty. Then I was in the exam sector also, the exam department. So we do more of setting some questions. There's some questions we set that are online. I don't want to go deep into it because it's too private matter, but there's some things to do with digital tools that are really amazing.
Great. And even down to something as simple as using a Google form, you'll be amazed at how many of our school teachers do not yet know how they could take advantage of that to improve the quality of their work and the learning outcomes that they get of their students. And so the journey goes on and on and on like that. And this advent of technology and adopting it and just understanding that it's a tool that's supposed to enhance our productivity is something that we need to embrace on a bigger scale. Let's move into what the future is like for education and where you see yourself in that future. Would you mind talking to us about that?
So I envision the educational sector as a sector where teachers will be more technological driven and lesson will be more less learner centered. You know, sometimes there are some lessons that are just teacher centered, meaning that the children have not really gotten a full grasp of what teacher is teaching. So I envision education, I envision teachers as being more technological driven, meaning that you should just look for a way in any way. Okay, I also pointed out because I don't know if you might ask me if I forget that some teachers might say, oh, technology, technology, technology. What if we don't have a laptop? What if we don't have this? How can we? Sorry, I'm diverting. I just don't want to.
No, it's totally fine.
Okay, I just don't want to forget. So some teachers in some rural areas will be like, how will I do if I don't have a laptop? What will I do if I don't have a, a digital gadget? So you can start with your phone. Teachers can start with their phone. For now, I upload Canva for education. They can also download, go online, install Canva, or you go on Google and type Canva for education. So when they go there, they register and maybe upload their teacher's license or their offer letter to prove that they're teachers. Then that way, they will learn more, get access to digital tools that will help them to be technological driven, and they will see some interactive lessons that are learner centered, meaning that while the teacher teaches, students are able to replicate, they're able to learn what the teacher taught, and it's going to be value based. Because anything you're doing that there's no value at the end of it, it's not what you're doing. That's why they say what doing is what doing well. So I believe our teachers should be more technological driven, learner centered, and value based, where students are being encouraged to create and solve real world problems. So those are my few suggestions. I believe in the course of this discussion, I'll still remember to say some.
Yeah, and the other part of that question was actually to where you see yourself in the future, in that future of
Okay,
education.
I see
What's
myself.
out there for you?
Okay, I see myself in the future of education as someone who will facilitate, who will teach teachers, who will imbibe more knowledge to teachers on how to use these digital tools. And I will not just do it in a local level, I'll also go global in order to make sure that the United Nations goal, SDG goal 4, which is quality education, is being brought to fulfillment.
Awesome. Great goal out there. So we're looking out for that day when there's some national recognition of your work, international, across Africa, and even global. We can't wait to talk about how. Yeah, we know Miss Fortune. She was on the podcast talking about her passion and the things that she's done within the space. We're coming to the end of the conversation, and I wonder if you have a thought that you want to ensure that you leave with the audience before we come to the end of it.
Okay. My closing thought will still be similar to my the beginning thought, like I said, that in everything we do, we should not give up. And another thing I'll add to what I said previously is what's doing is what's doing well. What's doing is what's doing well. So since God has placed us to be teachers or aspiring teachers for those that are also aspiring, I say I will not delve into the education sector. You have to do your best. You have to do your best. The world is going digital. The world is going techy, as we all know. So I don't want all any teacher to be left behind in the next 5 to 10 years, because now these informations are out there for them to explore. So I'll always say, like I mentioned, what's doing is what doing well. Be the best in your profession. Be the best. Learn how to use or integrate AI, digital tools in your teaching and learning process. And I also mentioned some tools before this session ends that you can also root out or research more about to get better. I mentioned Canva for education. You can also check out for Canva for education. It's free. You get access to Canva Pro version without paying a dime. So just go and explore about it, search about it to learn more. You can also check about Khan Academy, KHAN Academy. There you also learn, you get access to free lesson plan, get access to free lesson content, different levels. So you learn for free, because some teachers be like, what if I don't have the resources to actually subscribe? It's for free. Then they also have an AI chatbot that's for Khan Academy called Canmingo. And Canmingo does very, very amazing things that you cannot even imagine. I think lately I was trying to, when I was working at Mr. International School, I actually supervised um, teachers report about students, and I saw some amazing content. So I was like, what if some teacher are having writer's block? Maybe you have something to say about this child. Let's say the child is intelligent but is hyperactive. How can you say it in a way that it won't make the teacher, the parents feel sad about their child? So I actually typed it on the AI board, write a class report that's on Kamingo, that's KHANMIGO. I was to make a report for this child that it won't sound annoying to the parent. And it gave me an amazing report that even the parents will be like, okay, my child had this, but you understand, you see it in a positive light. It also does some amazing things like multiple choice quiz. Try and instill some quiz in your classes to make it more interesting. Even gamification, check out for Kahoot. Kahoot is an app. You can also check the website KAHOOT. For games, you see amazing games that are related to a particular topic where you can teach your children different forms of water, the solid, liquid, and gas using gamification method, which will also make it interesting. We also have other tools like Miro, for scheduling, where teachers can be able to schedule, because teachers have a lot of things on their mind. You have this, you have to teach, you have to give reports. So I believe if you can write down those things on your Miro app, you can be able to know, okay, you tick off, I've done this for today, I've done this for today. And the last app I want to mention is Loom. Like I mentioned, what doing is what's doing well. A teacher needs to do self-reflection. I always advise, if you can do 15 minutes, or if 15 minutes is too much, 10 minutes self-reflection per week. Like on a Friday, you just do a video of yourself. What did you do well in class? What do you think you could improve? What are some roadblock you met while teaching? Then when you can be able to reflect on what you encountered. You can also ask ChatGPT, how can I improve in this aspect? It will give you amazing idea, or Google Gemini, many amazing ideas. So don't want to keep us with many tools, but I'll still just do a rundown of some of the tools teachers can use. I mentioned Canva for education, Khan Academy or Canmingo, Miro for scheduling. You can also use Google Calendar to remind you about some things. Kahoot for gamification, then Loom for self-reflection. Please don't forget the self-reflection, because when you reflect on things you've done, you'll be able to make corrections and get better. Thank you.
Good list of very important tools there, and I can testify that they are very useful. Because having used them myself, they're quite helpful. And just knowing that these tools exist and you can access them on your mobile phone means that everybody can. Because I mean, the whole park has access to smartphones these days, right? So thank you very much, Fortune, for sharing with us all of those interesting things about education, what the future holds, and where you are there. It was great also getting to know about your story and how you got into education. And look at that diversion from medicine and surgery to education and biology today, leading a world where more teachers are able to take advantage of their special position.
Now, before you go, if you're asking yourself, this AI in the classroom, how can I have access to it? How can I learn how to be the top of my game, I'll advise you to go to Google and search for Canva Design School. Canva Design School. There you'll be able to see amazing courses you can take for free. You'll learn about AI in the classroom, how you can be able to do some amazing designs, write out storybooks and all that for making your learning more interesting.
It's Canva design for free. All right. And this is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of Peel, powered by Teacher. Do join us again.